Okay. Yep. This is a video reply to UbuntuLee. Now, I'm real happy you got your Mac, Ubuntu. I'm real happy. And if you ever ask me, and yes, thank you for telling me it's 3 o'clock, I think that Mac OS X is way better than Windows. Even Windows 7, but that's just my opinion mainly. But regarding your last video, now I don't know much about comp, so I'm not going to say anything, but I do know one rule, and I keep this very simple. I never, ever tried to say that Mac OS X is better than Linux. And there's a simple reason. Linux, even though it's not really a distro or an arm of Unix, in fact, Linux is a generic form of Unix, which I learned from Mr. Bett, and he will confirm that. But anyways, Linux, Ubuntu, and all the distros, Unix, well, actually Unix is basically the father, but Mac OS X and Linux are basically brothers in programming languages. It's even though Linux is a generic form of Unix, it's as close to Unix you can possibly get. Everybody knows it. And well, I mean, and if you want the best security, I mean, you know, most likely, I mean, YouTube is run by a Unix-based server. Most likely, Red Hat. And most other big server names are run by Unix or Linux. Sometimes BSD, which Mac OS X comes from. And essentially, when you look at the Mac OS X, it is a distro of the Unix BSD distro. It basically is a Unix Linux. I mean, a Unix BSD distro, or at least in that distro is called Darwin, which is an offhand of BSD. Everybody knows this. This conversation once before with a certain particular somebody, but I'm not going to mention names. But yeah, their architecture is not exactly similar, but it's pretty close. So, you know, I'm just going to say this from a person who's owned I mean, if you check my Mac history video, you'll see that I've owned Mac since even before that gray one. But I've owned Mac since that piece of shit known as Apple Mac OS 8, which unfortunately was a rushed operating system. If you don't believe me, just look up Copland. Apple Copland. It was a rushed operating system out the door. Of course, I'm not supposed to also forget that most BSD programmers call Darwin an inbred version of itself.